Unit 13 is a rather strange title for me, considering how little it gets talked about online, as people rarely ever mention it when the discussion of shooters on the PS Vita is brought up. So I decided to make a video about it in hopes that it might spark a little bit more interest in this underappreciated title. Unit 13 is a third-person shooter that was released on March 6, 2012. The game was developed by SOCOM developer Zipper Interactive and published by Sony Entertainment. Unit 13 actually ended up being the last game developed by Zipper Interactive, as just a few weeks later, Sony would end up shutting down the studio. Unit 13 doesn't have a very complex or important narrative. Basically, you're a secret military group called Unit 13, and you have to kill terrorists. And killing terrorists, you do a lot of. When it comes to visuals and sound, Unit 13 absolutely knocks it out of the park. While the game doesn't really have any formal soundtrack apart from the title screen and end level screen, what we get in-game is more of a situational soundtrack that changes depending on what you're doing in-game. If you're sneaking around the base, trying to remain unseen by enemies, the music becomes very tense and foreboding. When engaged in an intense firefight, the music is very energetic and fast-paced. It really helps make the game feel more immersive and definitely puts me on edge when I'm walking around and I hear the music, as I'm not sure what's nearby and ready to shoot me. Visually, Unit 13 honestly is a fantastic looking game, and is one of the few Vita games whose visuals still hold up even when blown up to a 1080p display. With these very detailed environments that look and feel authentic, like they're actual places in the world. Mixed with the gorgeous lighting and superb smoke and particle effects, it really brings this game up to snuff with other stuff on the home consoles at the time. Occasionally, you can even hear the enemies interacting with each other, and while it isn't too in-depth, as most of the time they'll just say the same few lines, it's still cool and adds a lot of immersion and world building. Even your character will occasionally spout off a few of their own thoughts, which really helps to give these admittedly bland soldiers a bit more character and personality. It's not Duke Nukem level of one-liners, but it's still pretty cool.
Hail to the king, baby.
The main campaign is split up into 36 different missions, with 9 unlockable ones. Before each mission starts, you can choose the operative you want to use and their loadout. There are 6 different characters that you can play as, and they all have different strengths and attributes that are suited for different missions. The game will choose the best man for the job, but you can still use whoever you like. The same thing goes with their weapons. They all have their own base loadout, but you can change it up to suit your liking. For example, Zeus, the game's shotgunner, was honestly my least favorite character, because his shotgun felt so weak compared to the other guns. But after simply changing and optimizing his rig, I now have essentially what is a pump-action insta-kill gun. This thing fucking takes down literally everyone with ease. However, in the event that you discover the gun you chose actually sucks ass, you can always just commit a war crime and loot a gun from a dead guy. Gameplay-wise, it's pretty similar to most third-person shooters, with cover-based shooting and regenerating health. However, Unit 13 does things differently, as it's a mix of an arcadey shooter and a tactical one. There are 4 different mission types, each having its own specific restrictions that they must be completed under. These are Direct Action, Elite, Covert, and Deadline. Direct Action is your most basic one with regenerating health and checkpoints to help you along the way, and no special restrictions added to it. Elite missions are pretty similar to direct missions, except that you have a fixed health bar and no checkpoints, meaning that if you die, you get sent back right to the beginning of the mission. Covert is just your typical stealth mission where you need to get through without being seen and killing as few enemies as possible. And Deadline is where you're placed under a strict time limit and have to complete the mission before it ends. Out of all 4 missions, my favorites were definitely the Elite and Deadline, as they were definitely the most challenging and nerve-wracking to complete. The most important thing about Unit 13's gameplay is that it uses a high score system. This is where its arcade-like influence really takes shape. Basically, everything you do in this game revolves around your score. Every mission even has an unlockable mode where the entire point is just to get the highest score possible. Every time you play it, it'll randomize what you need to do during it, and it's honestly pretty fun and adds a lot of replay value to the whole game. But back to my original point. Everything you do is worth points. Killing enemies, completing objectives, disarming bombs, doing things stealthily, just to name a few. The level end screen also rewards you with extra points for doing things like killing all enemies, completing the mission quickly, and how accurate you are, meaning that spraying and praying will only really hurt you in the long run. Now, what exactly do all these points actually do? They determine how many stars you receive at the end, and you want to collect as many as possible, as these are used to unlock the closest thing this game really has to boss fights, the high value targets. These are 9 unlockable missions, with the main point of them being to take out a high-ranking member of the Alco Wad. The only difference I found between them and standard enemies is that they not only look different, but I think they take a few more shots to the head to kill. But other than that, it's pretty similar to the standard direct action missions.
Target eliminated.
Roger. Target eliminated. Nice.
The last and final part of this game is its multiplayer section. Unit 13 was released during a time when game studios were trying to curb the act of buying used games. One way they did this was by including an online voucher inside the case that needed to be redeemed in order to get access to the online features, or else you'd have to pay a fee of like $10. Now, why do I say all this? Well, it's because Unit 13 did the exact same thing. In fact, quite a few PS Vita games did it too. The only 2 that I have with me that still have the codes with them are Resistance Burning Skies and Soul Sacrifice. Now, what did you get with your online voucher, or $10? You got a 2-player co-op mode. That's it. No 4-player co-op or 8-player co-op, no deathmatch, no nothing. How is it? Well, I have no idea, as I got my game used and am not going to pay $10 for what's most likely a dead community. But if you're the type who likes the platinum games, you're going to have to buy it and find someone to play with, as that's one of the achievements. Now, there is also a daily mission mode, but it just has you play through a random mission where you try to achieve the highest score possible, and the person who gets the highest score will have their name and score shown. Overall, despite its almost non-existent story and lack of a good online mode, Unit 13 is still a fantastic, underappreciated shooter on the PlayStation Vita that delivers a fun experience for all and is a title that I wholeheartedly would recommend to anyone. If you did end up enjoying this video, feel free to hit the like button and maybe even subscribe while you're at it, and I will see you next time with even more PS Vita related content. See you later.